Hi, I'm picking up where the previous video left off because it cut out on me. So now we're moving to tips for how to read Beloved so that you get the most out of it. Um, One, as you read, I would create a character map with the names of the characters, who they are, sort of in terms of what they've done, their relationship to others, and then leaving room so that you can add new revelations and understandings about them, even page numbers. So if you put Denver, then you could add, as Denver starts to, with her engagement with Beloved, and then later in the book, Paul D and other characters, start to add your new assessments and understandings. I like to do notes like that actually with pen and paper, um, because I like to map it out in that way, but that's up to you. Um, Also, after you come to every section, so there are three sort of chapters in Beloved, and there aren't named or numbered chapters within that, but they're broken down into because there's white space above. And in our class, I've labeled those with letters, so 1A, 1B, 1C. And you can keep notes just after every single one to write down some immediate impressions. Um, whose point of view is that particular section told in? What seems to be the focus and intent of that particular section? Is it laying groundwork? Is it telling a narrative? Did it seem more straightforward than other parts? What can we learn from that? Does it seem to be more of a work of recovering memory? Does it seem to be flashes where you're not sure how to connect it all? So write down those impressions, thinking about the events that happen in there. And then also you may want to indicate at least one passage that really stood out to you. We're going to be working with that on the discussion board, identifying passages and discussing them. Plot is important in the way that it's a novel, but it honestly takes a back seat to so much of the other stories in here. This is a story that Morrison wrote. She fictionalized the events of a real woman's life, which is incredibly heartbreaking given once you start to read the novel and understand that. And in fact, the real woman's life was even more tragic than we see in the novel. But Morrison is trying to think about, how do you tell the story? How do you tell the story of hundreds of years of subjugation and abuse? You can't just write one story to capture all that, right? That has us beginning to end. And so it's mythic in its scope. It is confusing and ghost-like and lyrical, because it's trying to present something that can't be easily handled. And so think instead, rather than totally focusing on plot, think a little bit about some of the themes. And then as you write your notes, you can connect to those. So themes of family, of ideas of identity, masculinity, power, love, trauma, and slavery, yes, but also the particular sexual slavery that many of slaves who were women endured. And that's something we don't actually talk a lot about. That if you are a slave, you can't have a consensual relationship with your slave owner because you don't have any other choices, and that so many women were raped by their people who believed they owned them. And we see in Setha that she had a different path. She was a woman who married in the way that she could. Again, part of slavery sought to, part of it upholding the structure of it, it had to dehumanize the individuals, right? So they couldn't be accorded the same rights, rights to marry, rights to their children, rights to property, because that would be saying you are also human. And so as you read, and as you know, as these ideas, keeping in mind these themes, please keep good notes. Write on your text, or if you're reading it online, highlight it. What seems to be connecting to these? You don't have to have the right answers. And if you are Googling extra help on reading Beloved, that's okay. But if you're Googling answers, you actually are probably missing out, because the most compelling ideas I've encountered in Beloved are ones that I had to stumble across through various readings of it. And so I hope that by engaging with this book in this inquisitive way, this way that's very open and desirous of learning new things, that you will allow yourself to be immersed in its active empathy, that it asks us to consider the humanity of the 60 million and more. So I hope you enjoy Beloved by Toni Morrison, and I can't wait to talk about it with you online. Thanks.